Somebody say relevant. That is such a dangerous word in the times that we live in. Particularly when you live in the buckle of the Bible Belt like we do. Because many times we think to become relevant, if you want to be where somebody is, or if you want to help somebody where they are, you have to be where they are. In other words, if you want to save people from being alcoholic, you've got to go to the bars. And religious people don't like that. I'm not telling you to go to the bar. I'm not trying to say that to help them where they are, you have to go down to that level. I'm not exactly saying that. I'm not saying you have to jump in the addiction with them, because you have to be careful. I'll tell you this. Because if you understand the nature of people, if you understand the nature of people, they'll never disappoint you. Jesus, he made room for people to fail because he understood failures in all of us. Right? When Peter was walking out on water and he slipped and fell in the water because he lost his faith, Jesus didn't get upset. He didn't get upset about Judas betraying him. He didn't get upset about any of his disciples that went rogue on him and fell asleep in the Garden of Gethsemane, because he understood the nature of people. Now, this is the nature of people, and this is why if you want to have an AA ministry, you don't need to run to the bar if you used to be an alcoholic. Because the nature of people is they turn on what used to turn them on. So if you start hanging around stuff that you used to be in, it won't take too long till the thing jumps on you. I don't care if you are super Christian, you've got the badge, just prove it. But to become relevant, some way we've got to get on their level. We can't necessarily come down and begin to participate in the habits, but we've got to change their mindset. And to do that, we've got to become relevant. In other words, church can't be just about you and I anymore. It's got to be about them. And that's where people get mad and get upset. People leave churches over that. Because I bought the pew and I helped paint the steeple. My grandpa was here and I'll be here. And because I was here and he was here, it's going to work how we want to, because it's about us. But it can't be about us anymore. The price of relevancy is that you lose your identity. You lose your identity. I'm not talking about forgetting where you came from, but this is what Jesus did. Jesus was so relatable that people couldn't even tell he was Jesus. When he came to the bank of the Jordan and John the Baptist saw him, he said, "Are you the Messiah that's coming that's supposed to baptize me? Because you don't look like it." Remember, Zacchaeus was in the crowd looking for Jesus, but he couldn't tell which one he was. He said he couldn't see which one he was because he didn't look like Jesus. This is the thing about church, and I'm not just trying to harp on church. I'm not just talking about our church. I'm talking about it as a whole. So please don't get my point of being here today. It's not to say look at all the bad things we're doing, but it's say look at this. Most churches are more concerned about their name than God's name. And if you've noticed kind of the pattern, and maybe you don't look at it as much as I do, but the most successful churches, even if they're part of the denomination, are taking the denomination label off of their church name and having things like Fellowship Church and the Potter's House and things that really aren't even church related. That are words that are appealing to people that are sick of church. In my old job when I was working in the prison, I had a guy that had committed a very heinous crime anyway, and he ended up taking about the lives of 16 people. He was in there, and I said, he was really a religious man now. He was trying to turn his life around. He wanted to be a chaplain, all those different things, and I was talking to him. And through the course of it, I said, why are you getting into this now? Why didn't you get into it before? And he said, well, the reason I never went to church was because I'd been before. And he said, I didn't like what I saw. And the very people that made me feel bad for being who I was, in reality, was doing the same thing I was doing, just behind closed doors. I just chose that if I was going to do it, I was going to do it openly. And that was the only difference. And I thought, if they can do that and still not be changed, then why should I get involved with it? And then one day he really met God. The whole point of it was, though, is that the church he was at the time was more about their church name than about God's name. Look what we're doing. Look how many people we've got coming. Look at our worship experience. Look how awesome the praise team is. Here's a flyer. Look at our new logos. Look at all those different things. And somehow through it, we lost the identity for it being about God and it become about us. And if we want to be relevant, people can see us coming a mile away. Do you think that if Jesus was in the Holiness Church and they saw him walking down the River Jordan, that they could pick him out? You got quiet, didn't it? I don't mean that bad. Jesus didn't try to stick out. He tried to fit in. He wasn't trying to get out of the world. He was trying to get in it. He wasn't trying to leave his job and get in full-time ministry. He understood full-time ministry was where his job was. Yes. Somebody say amen to that if you really believe it. He was trying to become so relatable and so relevant to the culture of his time that he told stories about agriculture because he lived in a society where agriculture was the main means of supporting yourself. So he told stories about farming because farmers understood farming, right? If he was here today, he'd probably talk about something to do with Silicon Valley and coal mining. I don't know. But he understood his language had to be understandable, that people could relate to it, or otherwise it didn't matter how many answers he had. If he couldn't communicate it, it was pointless. And he became relevant. Understand, and this is the reason people get upset about losing their identity, is because as church people, me included, many times I feel like I have to be the standard, right? I've got to be the one that stands out. I've got to be the example. I've got to be Mr. Perfect and so that the world can look on and be like me. But no, not supposed to be like me. He's supposed to be like God. How did that mentality get in there? And if we really did some soul searching, look through our life, all of us at times feel like that we've got to be the standard. We've got to be the example, right? What happened to allowing God to shine through us? That he simply put us on like a coat and wore us for that day, and that through us, God's love was portrayed to the point that people stopped wanting to be like us and wanted to be like God. People didn't want to come to our church because it was our church and what we had going on, but people wanted to come there because God was there. Jesus lost his identity. He wasn't about to say, look, I'm Jesus. Look at my ministry. Look, I'm Jesus. I heal blinded eyes, and I open up deaf ears, and I part waters, and I can do amazing. I can walk on water. I can make some fish sandwiches, stretch, and feed 5,000 because I'm Jesus, and I'm the man with the plate in my hand. It wasn't about that. Everything he said, I was about my Father's business. He lost his own identity to carry the identity of his Father. And to become relevant, somehow we've got to forget about what we like and our opinions and what matters to us and realize we've got to become relevant to the people outside the doors. Otherwise, why would they want to come here? You saw how they look at us. We've got to change the mindset, right? Yes. We have to change our own attitude. How do we do it? Look at the next video. So, preacher, you're telling me my mind has to change before theirs? You're exactly right. You mean my attitude has to change before their attitude changes? You're exactly right. You can go ahead and stop that. It's all good. The music sounds nice, though, doesn't it? Kind of puts me to sleep. Don't want to wake you up. I got to wake you up here. Rethink everything. If our attitude could understand that an evangelist today is a lot different than an evangelist when we had tents. The picture it showed of an evangelist was a Little League coach that had the ability to speak into the lives of some little boys that forever changed them. Evangelism is no longer just standing behind a pulpit that looks real nice and holding the Bible and a three-piece suit or a nice dress with a bottle of oil and some business cards out to save the world. It's not about that anymore. To become relevant, we have to understand evangelism is when we're helping somebody change their oil that don't know how to do it themselves, and we say, you know what? Let me tell you my story. Because, man, I used to be so messed up. I had so many issues. I was the biggest introvert you ever saw. I didn't want to talk to anybody. So it's not even natural. I'm talking to you right now. But I'm just telling you, I had this experience with this guy named God one time. And it forever changed who I was. And I just want to tell you about it because I want you to have the same experience. What do you think's better? Times have changed. Billy Graham has a different face. And you look at it in the mirror every time you get up in the morning. We have to rethink what church is. Church is no longer just coming here and kind of huddling together. But true church, the point of it all was to tell other people about Jesus, to become the hands and feet, They'll become disciples, disciplined, learned ones. They have the ability to relate to the times. The Bible says the tribe of Issachar, who had understanding of the times, their ability to relate to them made them an